Hey, Miguel Adorati back here on the CRP, the Cage Rage podcast. And we're back with a relatively new segment called Talking the MMA Old School. And I got a treat for you guys out there today. I got an old school guy from the West Coast. And I'm talking to Anthony Hamlett here. Anthony, 145-pounder in his competition days, went back and forth. He's definitely a guy that fought before the UFC became the UFC and was a member of Matt Hume's stable in the early days and things. So I know he can tell a few good stories. I know he's also gone on to become a referee and a promoter. And, he's still involved with the mixed martial arts to this day. So, Anthony, how you doing, bro?
It's good, man. Good. Real good to see you. It's been a few months.
Yeah, it definitely has. It's funny, you blink and you can let a lot of time go by. So thanks for taking my call.
The last time I seen you, we were in Atlantic City with a bunch of Russian guys that you might be scared to do something bad to.
Yeah, that's probably that USA versus Russia show. Who were you there with?
I brought Bristol Marunde out there. Remember?
Yep. Okay, that's who it was. Bristol. Yep. Those were fun days, man. What's
funny about that show is, what's his face? He was from American Top Team. He's a 55-pounder. He's from New Jersey originally. What was his name? Tough kid.
The Italian kid?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about, but his name's gonna escape.
Him and Hermes Francas were business partners for a while. Remember?
Yep, exactly.
He has me tape his hands. He goes, "Hey, can you tape my hands?" I'm like, "This is a brand new commission stuff." In fact, Guido was there and his brother was there. This is the first time I'd met Guido before. I got Guido his break after that. He was 17 too. But anyways, I tape his hands and I taped them like we'd been trained out here. No problem. I folded up tape, put it over the knuckles, and whatever. He goes out there, just smashes his dude, and he comes back and he goes, "Dude, you got to go with me every time." I broke my hands every fight, and then. Here I go over here. I'm starting to tape Bristol's hands the same way. They're like, no, you can't put tape over the knuckles. I sit there and I loaded his hands with tape, not knowing I was just taping and protecting his hands. But yeah, that was funny. I met Clay and his brother that weekend over there.
Yep, I mean those cards were actually packed with a lot of guys that moved on and are probably known. I'm looking up that card right now. Because Bristol Bristol went on to fight. He fought Jacare. He fought a lot of people, and he went on to a long career.
Yeah, we fought an American guy. I think it was an American Top Team guy that night. We fought.
Now I'm looking here. He also fought a Russian guy for me out in Atlantic City on one of those.
That was the only time I brought him out there. So it must have been the Russian guy.
Oh, and Hallman fought that day too.
Hallman. I came out there with Hallman and cornered him. That was when the black dude, the commission, he came over to stop the boxing guy. He came over and stopped the fight after the second round. He wouldn't let Hallman go back out there. Remember?
Okay, yeah, I do remember that against Chilango. Now that wasn't on the same show because they got it listed as the same show.
Different shows.
Sure, Dog. I trust you, Sure Dog, but they got that listed as the same show. Out on Sure Dog. So anyway, let's go back and let's focus on you because now when you go, I bet you Sure Dog doesn't have all your fights. You're one of those guys that can almost guarantee you probably got 30 fights that are not on Sure Dog. So talk about how'd you break into the sport? Because
by accident. I wasn't a fighter. I didn't grow up fighting. I was wrestling for the Air Force. I was wrestling for the Air Force at the time, and I was just lifting at this Anytime Fitness gym downtown, and I walked into the aerobics room, and there they had some mats just rolled out, and Hallman just happened to be there. Hallman was 16-0 at the time as an amateur, about ready to turn pro, and they started wrestling. They told Hallman if he could tap this guy out. We nicknamed this guy later Fake Jesse. He would tell us these stories how he'd fly to some deserted place, and after 10 minutes there wasn't a winner. They throw sticks in the ring. He was one of those kind of guys. Complete bullshit liar. Hallman just smokes him, and I'm standing there watching, and Dennis goes, "Hey," he goes, "You want to try it?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm wrestling. I'm way better wrestler than Dennis. He's a state champion. I just got that. I was a 2-time All-American. I was just about ready to take right before I got my third for the Air Force, and he puts me in some Kimura thing, and he's like, "Dude, you better tap out." I'm like, "What do you mean tap out? I don't understand what you're talking about." He's like, "I've never did this shit before." This was in right around November of '98. he goes, hey, come to my gym tonight. I went to his gym that night, and he goes, you want to grapple this weekend, an invitation? I go, sure. I didn't know what grappling was, had no idea what anything was. So I show up at AMC, and this is who's in this tournament. I win my weight class at 100. I weighed at 150. Kim Mason, who fought for you, was a world he was a world champion. He won this weight class at 170. Ivan wins his weight class at 185. Munson wins his weight class at 205. And Josh Barnett won the heavyweight division. And then we're going to do this absolute thing. And I'm like, what the hell is this shit? I don't know what this is. And they're like, oh, there's money. I'm like, okay, cool. So I barely lost to Kim Mason by a takedown. And then Josh Barnett ended up winning that absolute. But that was my introduction to MMA. Like, that's some deep waters to be swimming in right off the bat.
Yeah, no, I agree with you right there. You got Barnett, a future UFC champion, and blah blah blah. Munson was
an Abu Dhabi champion at the time,
and et cetera, et cetera. And then Hallman. Hallman to me is one of those like guys that if you really look at it, submitting Matt Hughes is a nice trick, right? Yeah, but doing it twice. That's silly, man. He really needs so much more credit than he gets. You know what I mean?
Who trained him for that fight? Him and I owned a gym together. I probably slammed Dennis on his head 50, 60, 100 times. So when Matt Hughes did it, it's like, okay, we've been doing this. You got to remember, Miguel, when I joined AMC, you know what I got from Matt Hughes? Matt Hughes gave me a 15-minute beating. I'm not even joking, beating. At 12 minutes, I tried to climb out of the ring. He pulled me back in and beat me up even the rest of the round. He said, because you can't handle that, you're not going to be able to handle what I'm going to put you through. And you better believe it. Every time me and Josh used to get into it, because when I'd go at it with, I was fearless from the day one. I try to knock you out. I try to knock you out every time I slam you in practice. I mean, if you were having a bad day because of me, I was going to turn it on. It was going to get worse. I wasn't going to go easier on you. And that's the mentality of the gym we had,
Yeah, no, I remember. I've sent people to train with Matt, and I respect Matt. I think he's one of the, probably the best trainer out there still. But a lot of what he did too was a lot of mental pressure. I heard stories where he put people through you, and if you're a new guy, he put people on you, change people, and put people on you, and then you're exhausted, and then you get hit.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like wow, because
I do the same thing.
Yeah, and I mean, it doesn't surprise me because it's definitely a style. There's some guys that snap to it, like you were a soldier and you were right there. There are other guys that Hughes pressure is too much, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to weed some of the guys out there. So it doesn't surprise me. But yeah, that's like a who's who class. That's also basically the group that Matt took to Abu Dhabi with him. It was you at 145 and Hallman.
Hallman at 70. We had Ivan and Kim Mason, and then Josh, and then Munson. That was our team for Abu Dhabi. Yeah, when Matt invited me to go to Abu Dhabi, he invited me to go to Abu Dhabi. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let's talk about that. I love that.
Yeah.
Story.
So Matt invites me to go to Abu Dhabi. I had just joined Matt's team, so my first fight was in January of '99, an amateur fight. I'm in the Air Force. This show Hallman was promoting the show. It got so much publicity because the state was trying to regulate us and shut us down. So they were threatening us to, if we fought, they're going to arrest us and all this other crud. And we had to stand our ground, because if we didn't stand our ground, we won that war. And so my opponent doesn't show up. There's probably 2,500 people there, and I have probably 250 people there from the Air Force Base. And I have nobody to show up. I weighed 150 pounds. I got about a month and a half of training under my belt, maybe 2 months. And I was like, Dennis, I got to fight somebody. You got guys, your team. He's like, I ain't letting you fight any of my guys. I'm like, fuck, I got to fight somebody. He goes, the only person close to you is Victor Estrada. I go, this is how cocky I was. I go, I'll fight Victor and his opponent. He goes, Victor's 9-0 and he's fighting for the 170 title tonight. I go, you heard me. He goes, you'll fight Victor? I go, you're damn right I will. I fought Victor my first amateur fight. You'd think, that screwed me. Because then the new guy who didn't know how to fight, I didn't know how to fight. I was just mean and tough and just ornery. Now nobody would fight me. So I got one more amateur fight, and then I had to go pro. That's when I came to see you. Dennis, it's time to go to the qualifier now for Dennis. He goes, hey, go with me and corner me. I was like, I don't know about that. And he goes, I'll get you a fight. Oh, okay. He goes, I'll get you. They'll pay you 150 to show, 150 to win. I go, cool. He goes, but you got to buy your own airline ticket. Okay, how much is that? He goes, 240. So I came and fought on your show. Jeremy Bolt, one 15-minute round, and boy, I think we fought for 12 and a half minutes, and that's when I finally finished him. And I made $60 for coming out there and fighting my first pro fight.
I'm glad you.
I think I was overpaid by some of those old day standards.
Yeah, I think you got paid. But the other part of it is if you lost, you'd have actually been out of pocket for some of the plane tickets. So it went the right way. Now, and that's funny too. That's I gotta take my hat off to the old hook and shoot stuff because Jeremy Bolt for a first fight. That's Jeremy Bolt was no joke.
He was tough. He was, and I learned to wrestle. I was just a dumb wrestler at the time. I had only been training for a couple of months because as soon as I fought my first amateur fight, I left to go wrestle for the Air Force, and I came back 4 months later. So it's already April, and I fight my last amateur fight, turned pro. And then Matt invites me to go to Abu Dhabi, and I'm like, fuck, am I ready? You know what I mean? I'm winning all the regional Turkish, but I'm like, I'm getting my ass kicked in the room every day because of everybody I'm training with. The closest person in my weight is Holman, and you better believe the only advantage I have on any of these guys is wrestling. So you better believe every time I took them down, I was going to put them on their head as hard as I could every single time, including Matt. Believe me, because every time I hit the ground, so when Matt invited me to Abu Dhabi, twice a week, he didn't go to practice because he lived so far away. He wouldn't get home until 1 o'clock in the morning. I went to his house in his basement and made him train with me twice a week. And I mean, I got my ass whooped for 6 months straight. And guess what? When I showed up to Abu Dhabi, I was there to win. I had 6 months of training. I didn't care that your name was Hoyler Gracie and your family invented this. In fact, Miguel, I never knew why they made a big deal about me grappling with Hoyler in the semis. I was like, who cares? I don't give a shit what his name is. It's never bothered me. I go, the toughest guy that I grappled in that whole tournament was the guy that I beat in the quarters, John Hulk. Roque, remember him?
Oh yeah, sure.
That dude,
a tough Brazilian, yeah.
That dude that I beat in the quarterfinal second round, right before Hoyler, that was the best guy in the tournament. He was better than Hoyler, in my opinion. He was.
You
went
40 minutes. The thing about Hoyler is Hoyler's the guy who and none of the Brazilians really give you anything, obviously, but Hoyler's just so absolutely no nonsense, Like I remember when he fought Barrett in the final. I don't know. This is one of the years that you were there, or one.
That was the year before, yeah.
But so he's got Barrett in the final, and in the final, the Abu Dhabi rule is weird, and they'll take a point away if you pull guard. Right.
Absolutely.
At the start. Before
that's only in overtime or in points. Only during that time.
So you got him. He goes up and he sits in front of Hoyler because he wants to play, jiu-jitsu. He wants to go for it, and Hoyler just looks at him like, "You just gave me the match," and he proceeded to stand in front of him for 20 minutes. You know what I mean? It's like, why would he engage? You gave him the point. And you would never give him a chance to win it back, which is what Barrett said. I'll give you a point. Let me have a chance to win it back. Let's play. It's the idea of competition. And money's involved, and the Brazilians are hungry in a different way.
Well,
and Hoyler brings that level of, he doesn't give you anything, man. I found that to be like, man, he really is just going to take.
I made one mistake. I made one mistake in that match. There was about 90 seconds left in that match, and I got too anxious to pass his guard because he couldn't submit me. He just... Coming from a Greco background, I couldn't understand why I was so far ahead. It wasn't I had great sub game. I had great sub defense right off the bat. It's because I come from a Greco wrestling background, and everybody thinks Greco's about throws. Greco is all about position, exploded throw. So everything about positioning, I understood that language. So when Matt spoke that language to me on the ass whoopings he gave me, I soaked it all up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And so talk about the Hoyler match, because if I remember, it was a long. Was it 40 minutes? You did a.
Well, no. I my first match was freaking 20 minutes. My first match, I wrestled Abe first match. Remember Abe?
Hiroyuki Abe. Yep.
I met him first match. My first match, 10 minutes, 5-minute overtime, another 5-minute overtime. Woo! And then second match was Roque, R-O-Q-U-E. Man, yep. I was like, nobody could take me down here. And guess what? I didn't respect Roque's wrestling. He snatches a single, and 90 seconds in the match, I got a 5-time world champion mounted on my chest. Yeah. But he didn't have what I had, and that's called Matt Hume in the corner. I tuned right into him. We stayed with the game, and he ended up losing the match. And then Hoyler, 8.5 minutes probably in, I just got too antsy. He reversed me. He passed my guard. They call it a sweep. I call it reversal. They sweeps me, passes my guard. I sweep him back over. That was match. I just needed to stay patient for 90 seconds. We would have been up on our feet in overtime, and there was not a chance he could ever take me down in his life. But I didn't even know that was Hoist's brother till last year. I never understood why everybody made a big deal. I'm like, who cares? I don't care. His name's Gracie. I don't care. You know, Miguel, I don't know if you remember this. We get there the day before weigh-ins, and they're like, they have us up in the bleachers. They're like, okay, everybody, we're going to weigh in Brazil first, and then everybody else in weight class order. And I said, the fuck you are? And I started walking down there. And luckily I had Matt Hume with me. and he's like, oh, Matt, because everybody knows the way that was ran back in the day. There was definitely, they were there a week before weigh-ins. We were there the day before. It was definitely some favoritism.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I mean, the guy's playing host, you know, and he's got all the money in the world and stuff. So there's going to be different levels. He's like, yeah, bring 150 fighters over there. So now he happens to know Henzo and that team, and that's, you know, the privileged team. So yeah, they go over a couple of weeks before and hang out, and you know, Henzo's friends with them and stuff. So
absolutely,
how can you tell the guy, no, you can't hang out with your friend? But yeah, there was a little bit of that. Like his team didn't like to weigh in. At some point, my crew was the crew that ran the weigh-ins, and I remember Ryan Gracie being overweight and, you know, being told, you know, it was Troy. Remember Troy? Troy telling him to go cut. Ryan didn't want to go cut. You know, Brazilian guys took Ryan aside. Ryan was an interesting guy, and they had to explain to him, it's like, yeah, let's, you know, go do this and take care of this and stuff. But yeah, you know, I think they had some privilege there along the way. Matt's a guy though. Matt's well placed over there as well, but you get a little bit different. So he gets a team to go over there, you know. But there's the end of his privilege. You guys didn't have 2 weeks before, and so yeah, when you went in against Hoyler, you were the underdog. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I wasn't supposed to make it. The brackets were set up so R-O-K, however you say his name, John Hook. Him and Hoyler were set up to meet because they'd met in the previous one and it was such a good match. So the brackets were set up like that. But my silly butt didn't know I had 6 months of training. I thought I was the best guy there. That's no joke. I was like, there's nobody beat me here. I don't care.
So, yep. You went out there for a minute, but now you're back. Are you there?
That's cool.
Okay, cool. So go ahead.
I said I had 6 months of training. I didn't know I wasn't the best guy there. I thought I was. That's a mentality that I have. That's what I try to tell all these people. When you get these wrestlers to become from a world-class level and judo practitioners, our attitudes, it's attitude towards people or cockiness towards people that don't know us, but that's just our confidence. That's what we walk into everything. We think we're going to win every single competition that we ever entered. That's how we train.
Yeah, no, I remember that. It showed from the very beginning throughout your whole career, taking fights, you know, where you're supposed to be the cornerman. There's another interesting story we went over. There was a time that you came out to the Indiana show, and you cornered one of the girls, but you came flying with Dennis Holman's passport. Explain that story.
This was right after 9/11, so I was down in Big Bear with Dennis training for the Jens fight up there with Tito. We were up there with Tito and stuff like that because we all knew Tito from Abu Dhabi when we were all there. So we've known Tito for quite some time now, and he's got one of our female fighters booked on the girls show that you guys had out there, and he's like, I don't want you. Can you go corner here? And I'm like, dude, I don't want to go out there. He's like, dude, just please go. I go, how are we going to do tickets in your name? He's like, they'll change it. Nope, they wouldn't change it. He goes, just take my passport and fly as me. So I took Dennis Hallman's passport. I looked nothing like him whatsoever. He's taller, he's bigger, and he's blonde hair half the time. And I flew to Indiana on a passport and flew back right after 9/11, not long after 9/11 with a girl. Yeah, that was a little dumb and risky when you think about it in the long run now.
Yeah, no, what I remember too, Anthony, is funny shit too, but you know, there were a couple of times where I was the guy who's supposed to pick you up at the airport. I show up and you've been waiting like 3 hours and shit. We screwed up picking you up a couple of times. So I apologize for that. And Yeah, 20
Dude,
years later. But you
that's,
you understood you knew that Indiana airport pretty good.
yeah, I've been there, and then you'll come back for somebody else, and you're like, that's what your old partner Jeff. He didn't understand. Like I never had a relationship with him. I never liked him from the day one for whatever reason. I have my own reasons, but I always worked with you. But I never even asked. People don't realize. Like I never asked for another dime. Whatever you offered me, I said yes and yes. The fight. Will you take
Yeah.
this fight? Yes. How much you pay me? Yes. And then I didn't even bring a corner with me. The only time I brought a corner with me is when I fought Hermes after I beat Curran. But before that, I just fly out there with whoever's gonna. I bring somebody else so we can both fight, like Kim Mason, my teammate. Remember that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was.
Where he
He's facing.
wound up having a bad cut. A weight
He's
cut.
facing a murder one charge. He's prime suspect. I didn't know this. He thinks it's funny. He's reading this in the newspaper articles. We just fought the week before out there in Washington, and I get to watch to Indiana. I go, I'm not rooming with him. I don't care if he's my teammate. I ain't rooming with him. Not happening. Remember, he cut 9 pounds. He bought a big bag of Skittles and spit 9 pounds off like a weirdo.
Wow. Yeah, I remember he collapsed after the fight and got taken to the hospital. And looking back at the fight and knowing, the charges and stuff that he went through afterwards, his father was a police officer.
Yeah.
And so it was a
Yeah.
big deal in the Seattle area that he was charged with that. And, not to get into the details, but I think he killed a guy
He originally kidnapped the guy. He kidnapped the guy. There's a couple different backstories to it. We don't really know. But his dad used to be deputy chief of police of Seattle, so they PR'd him. No bail. They PR'd him to his dad, and during the time that he was out, he kills the guy, and it came up in the court records. It's for FYI. It's him and his girlfriend. They got her to turn against him, and she goes yelling out. They were having a bad day. She goes, I'm having a bad day. He goes, you think you're having a bad day? I had to cut his effing head off. So, yeah, I had right not to. That was all in newspaper.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It was a tough. Some of the evidence was that there was a struggle or something. And if you look at the fight, he fought with a bandaged leg, like before the fight.
Yeah, because we fought the week before out here in Washington. I fought on the show with him, and then I didn't even know anything about his bandaged leg. And in fact, the next show when I came out there to fight, you had a guy that was from that area. He was just kind of a punkish guy, 4-0, 5-0. He might have been even 6-0, but he was kind of one of those guys. He'd say nobody'd fight him, and you go, I got this little skinny white guy that'll come fight you. I went all the way out there. You guys are putting the color tape on my hands. You're like, dude, your opponent just fucking left. I go, what? Your opponent left. The guy that said nobody would come fight him and he was unbeatable. I got out there and he left.
Dan Connor. I think it was Dan Connor was the guy's name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coward.
He did it to Mark Coleman's show. He did it to a bunch of shows here. I'll tell you, you know how that wound up? His girlfriend or wife, I don't even know what there's a difference, but she calls me like a week later and says to get him another fight. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So I just left it real fast. I said, look, you send me $1,000.
Right.
And I'll get him another fight, and then I'll give you back your $1,000 plus whatever we negotiate for the fight and stuff like that. But you gotta send me $1,000 to keep the conversation going, and it ended there. So so look, I just did an interview with Trevor, and you're from the Northwest, and I want to take you to talk about shows where I wasn't around, just because I know that you've seen some stuff. Trevor was telling me that for his third fight, he's like, yeah, they're going to take him up to Canada for a fight. And there he goes. And then all of a sudden he's up there and he's like, shit, I'm the main event. What's going on? And his third fight, and there he is against Dennis Kang, So I know the Northwest scene's been going for a long time. And there's also stories about, like, you got to drink a beer between rounds and fights and stuff like that. So I'm going to let you tell a couple of stories from the vaults, man.
Well, Dennis, when I got out of the Air Force in October of 2000, I was in the prime of my fighting, but I was also in my prime of my wrestling, and I walked away from wrestling because I was like,
oh shit.
that better? Going live?
Hey,
okay, I got you right.
We're back. Yep. Okay, cool. So I said I'm going to let you go ahead and tell one from the vaults, and you start to talk about Hallman and how you
so Hallman got this great idea because I used to drive. I was in the Air Force full time. I'd work from 7 to 4:30, go lift till 6, and then I'd drive to AMC 47 miles each direction 5 days a week. Well, Hallman got this great idea. Let's open up our own gym. We'll train so much. We can just go to AMC once a week. Well, Hallman is the worst business owner ever. Don't ever own a business with him. He sucks. He does nothing. He does 10% of the work and takes 90% of the credit. He was horrible. But we couldn't afford the gym. So we decided we're going to do shows at our gym. It wasn't legal at the time. The rules were this. Gloves were optional. Headbutts were legal. To get in, it was $15 to get in. Beer was free while it lasted. So we had 2 guys show up that were in the Army. They didn't have no money to get in. So we talked them into fighting each other, these 2 friends, if they fought each other. And the guy's like, I got no water. The round ends and his friend's beating his ass. He goes, I got no water. Somebody goes, here. They handed him a beer. So the next thing you know, the guy's drinking a beer in between rounds. Jeff Munson is the referee. This is how bad it is. And you know how much of a mess that guy is. It's the main event. I wasn't even reffing at this time back then. And we're all piled around. Everybody's standing around drunken and everything. And I'm watching the fight. And from the top, this guy, Joel Townsend, he headbutts the dude. Bam, splits him open. And Jeff's just standing there looking at him. I jump over the ring ropes with a beer in my hand and stop the fight. It was definitely comedy, but
well, Jeff's not what I would make, he's not referee material, you know what I mean? It's like Jeff's one of the toughest guys in the world, especially in his prime, no doubt, experience, everything like that. But and smart, but not a quick thinker. You know what I mean? It's like not for the instance of refereeing, dude.
You want to hear a Jeff story? Here's a Jeff story. We're all in our prime at this time. So this is early in the 2002-ish, 1-ish. And I'm living at Munson's house. Now, Munson has a wife. He lives wherever. And his girlfriend from England that he brought over, she's staying at the house with me upstairs, this nasty broad from England. Well, next thing you know, this is on a Sunday, because I'd been training some other fighters, wherever they came over to train with me. Well, Munson comes down upstairs. He goes upstairs to check on his girl. She's packing all her shit. She was just cleaning the room because she's whatever. Out of nowhere, dude, Margale, mark my words. You know I'll never lie when I say shit like this. Dude, out of nowhere from behind, I'm sitting in a recliner, and he goes, wham! Fucking slaps the fucking shit out of me, dude. Munson does from behind. I'm like, what the fuck, motherfucker? He thought I told that girl to get out. He doesn't talk to me at all. And so I'm like, I didn't fucking say nothing to her. He's like, oh, my bad. My bad. I said, fuck you, my bad. I said, we're going to fight. He goes, you want to fight me? I go, fuck yeah, I do. Now, at that time, I probably weighed 155-ish. He probably weighed 245, and he was 5'9", so he was in his prime. So I go, let's fucking go outside now. He goes, well, I know I'm about ready to get my ass kicked, so I go and rip my shoes on and my mouthpiece. Let's go. I'm going to go fucking get my ass kicked. So I ain't letting you pump me. So I go outside. So Hallman tells one of our other fighters, he goes, dude, pick up anything you can find, because Hamlett will fucking stab him in the eye with it. He knew I would. So I go out there, and now Jeff wants to apologize. I go, you want to say sorry? I go, let me slap you back. I mean, he slapped the shit out of me. It was full on wham. He goes, no, I ain't gonna let you slap me. I go, Jeff, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you don't let me slap you back, we'll never be cool again. And he agreed. He just walked away from it. And I seen him back in 2011. He tried to say hi to me. To this day, because have you seen Jeff walk to this, we're 20 years later, have you seen how he tries to walk? He walks like an 80-year-old man. Mark my words, when I see him again, I'm going to give him the same respect me, and I'm going to ear hole him. And if I for sucker punching me from behind.
I believe it. Now, were you responsible for taking his furniture and putting it on the roof of the house?
No, that was him and Hallman. They were on a prank war, and Jeff was doing gross shit. But Jeff, Hallman stole the front seat out of his car and so he had to drive on a milk crate home. They put a live possum in his car. And then it was going back and forth, and then they broke into his house and put all his furniture on the roof just like it was inside. His wife freaked out, and she no more. That was the end of the prank wars.
Yeah. Now, how did Hallman like not get killed by? Because I heard that when he put the roof, that Munson was hot and looking to kill him.
Munson wasn't tough.
Is that what it is?
No, he's not tough. When I first came to Washington, he was on the national team with me on the '99 team for Washington. When I first moved up here, and he ties up with me. He weighed about 220 at the time. He wasn't nearly as big as he was later on when he was able to really supplement. I don't know whatever. He had some good supplements too, didn't he? But he ties out with me. He ties out with me, and I tossed him on his head. He goes, "What was that?" I go, "Get it. Just go." And he does it again, and I tossed him on his head. He goes head over heels. He couldn't figure out what the hell I was doing because he's Jeff, dude. He's Jeff. We won't even get into Jeff's stories. Your viewers don't need to hear all those. Those are toxic.
I don't know if we have enough of a legal team anymore. You know what I mean? So we'll stay away from them. But no, I do appreciate some of those old school stuff. But let's talk about Hallman too, because to me, he's like one of those guys that I want to get him on this podcast too, if I can. That he was a guy who was ahead of his time, really. At least in terms of the submission game and stuff like that. And then just as an observation, I think it may have been you who told me this. That he was also one of those guys that the first time he got his hands on you, or you got your hands on him in a grappling scenario, he just had a couple of moves that were tricky and got you right away, And then once you got used to his game, you could get used to his game a little bit. But he was a magic boy. He was absolutely magic.
I could shut his game down. I was a better wrestler than him, so I could, and then I knew all his tricks because we've been rolling together for so many years and stuff. Hey, check this out, Miguel. I've never talked about this publicly. This is kind of crazy about this. So I'm in the middle of my prime. A lot of people don't know this. This was really fucked with me. If you ever look when I was spiking, I was just smashing everybody, and then all of a sudden I just started deteriorating. It looked like I was suffering from panic attacks, and it happened. It happened the first time it ever happened is during the Hermes fight, and I didn't know it at first, and it just kept. And then all of a sudden I recognized it. Imagine putting a claustrophobic person in a closet. That's what it felt like. I went from somebody, the attitude that I came in with, that confidence and mental thing, I went from that, and that became my biggest weapon against me, where it only happens in a fight. I go out there. That's why I would take those long breaks. You wouldn't see me fight for a long time, because it only happened in the fight. My counselor later on, I went to counseling over this shit, and it has to do with my PTSD with my dad, because I never fought back from my dad. It's some crazy childhood shit. It's kind of fucked up. And I wanted to bring it up to people because I can't be the only fighter out there, you know what I mean, dealing with this kind of crap. I guarantee you, you know what I mean? It would really mess me up. I mean, it got so bad where it didn't matter who I fought. You could put me in there with anybody and I couldn't perform anymore. It was horrible. Horrible. I never told a single soul, ever. Not a single soul until I was done fighting, because I was embarrassed of it, and I didn't want it to be used against me.
Yeah, I mean, once you're fighting and you're still fighting, I could see that. Yeah, for sure. I got everything. Are you hearing me?
Yeah. Hallman didn't know. Nobody knew. Everybody just always wondering. Go ahead, Miguel.
No, so to me, I wanted to ask you about that and a couple of other things. So, now, were you ever knocked out when you were fighting?
Never. Never been knocked out.
Never. Now, now with headshots and like you said, with a rough gym and stuff like that, do you ever feel a little bit, punch drunk, for another word? Because now I know you're a hardcore veteran, and I've been asking these questions of a lot of the guys and stuff. So, and you sound great, and I'm really happy for that. I remember Keith Wisniewski.
Yeah, absolutely. He's taken the Wisniewski brothers are some of the toughest guys that are in the world. Period.
Yeah, I mean, towards the end of his run, Keith, he came up to me after a fight and he was like, "How did I win?" And he asked me 3 times how he won the fight. And I was like, "Man, it's starting to. And he no longer spars hard and does stuff like that. So you got to change things around. But it's something that I think we're heading into a period where there are going to be some sad stories. And Mark Kerr is out there, like he's got a Fund Me page. that he doesn't even have $5,000 on it. It's getting to be a sad world. So I'm glad to hear that you're still strong with that stuff. But the panic attacks, that's a serious thing too.
It was bad. It was bad.
That opponent, Jeff Curran of yours, I believe, had maybe a similar type of situation. I remember when he fought on our show against Phil Johns, he locked himself up in a room and wouldn't come out in that basement of that gym. He put a sofa up against the room, and we couldn't get in and talk to him. He didn't want to talk to anybody. He didn't want to do anything. I mean, Jeff went on to have a lot of fights, and his brother's doing great in Bellator and stuff. He's around the game. Absolutely. But at that time, he was definitely, a guy who I was wondering about him before the fight.
Mine only happened during the fight. It's weird. It has to do with my PTSD. And it got so bad where because I never fought back when I was a kid. So that trauma, it came back out later in life because it's never been dealt with. You know what I mean? It's kind of fucked up. And because I was fearless, you know me, I didn't even get nervous before competition. I never looked at a fight as a fight. I looked at it as competition. That's why I'd fight anybody, anytime, anywhere. I didn't give a shit. And money didn't matter. It was just competition. I loved to compete. So being that mentally tough person that was there to go from there to the other thing, that sucked, man, to be so weak. And people, I just now started talking about it because I've been embarrassed about it. And what I finally did to make myself give up, I fixed all my teeth because then I couldn't fight anymore. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, then I'm like, I spent $20,000 on my teeth. I ain't fighting no more, bro.
Yeah,
that shit's done with. It's shit. But yeah, it sucks, man.
I'm glad you got the PTSD, looked at and worked through a little bit too. And it's good to know that stuff. Hopefully it helps somebody else when they hear it because all that stuff is real. And you can't go into a fight with a little bit of baggage. You know what I mean? That stuff does have an effect.
And once I recognized it, it was worse because then I'm like, oh man, I hope doesn't happen. And there was no nerves whatsoever. And people are like, hey, it's weird, man. And I've talked to people since then and let them know. They're like, I was wondering what happened to you. I didn't know if you weren't training. I go, no, it wasn't that. It was completely a mental issue that I couldn't control. I even went to a hypnotist. Didn't fucking work. Sucks.
It's crazy what you go through, man. You know what I mean? And I can, I can vouch for you. Everything you said is damn right true as far as and for your guys, it's like, yep, you need a guy, I'll get you a guy. Your guy would show up and that's it. It's like no nonsense. You never had to worry and certain things. And as a matchmaker too, if there was any worry on your camp, whatever, you would take care of it. I wouldn't even have to worry too much about it. You were on your guys. There was an expectation level and stuff like that. That came from Hume. All you guys carried yourselves that way and stuff. So to see it go that way, it's like in your own head, it gets messed up. It's amazing the way the fucking mind can betray you. It's fucking unbelievable.
Man. I fought a 9-0 guy in my first fight. It doesn't matter who. If you look at my record, there's a bunch of losses. Out of all my losses, honestly, Miguel, Hermes Sprite was the first time it happened, so it's kind of if you look when he mounts me in the second, when he finally got on top position, I just kind of froze, and that's kind of he looks. But because I remember Tara LaRosa asking me, she's like, "Why didn't you move?" Because I didn't do nothing. I just froze, and I got TKO'd. And before that, I was kind of handling, just starting to take control of the fight, and then I kind of froze. It was weird. I didn't even know it happened until I go back and look at those days later on, and it's like, yeah, I'd say maybe 2 of my losses I should have lost if I go back to those things. But other than that, it was just crazy putting myself. And to this day, though, our guys, like I said, if my guys, even my amateurs, if for some reason they're fighting on a show and I have to pull them for some reason, and I don't have anybody, I don't pull my guys because we make sure we fight, we train smart, and we do. You know what I mean? One of my pros, she's in my house right now. We've been done since Tuesday. She doesn't fight till next week. We're done with sparring and everything. It's all about, I don't think a lot of these fighters fight healthy. I think they walk in there too beat up. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But if I ever have to pull my guys, if I don't have anybody to replace them with one of my guys, I'll call for another gym and help the promoters, man, because you guys got a fucking tough job. You had a real tough job. And a lot of people don't know you were gone before the good times. Is you didn't make any money off, even when you were making lots of money from matchmaking. You took care of us, and then you took care of everybody around us. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't have anybody. If anybody thinks I have anybody from that, good luck finding it because I don't have it. So, but I don't regret it just because I do think there was a spot in the sport where, like, I look back, like, one of the things that people say about me is that I overpaid people, right? Now, when you look at my run at the end with Bodog, I'll tell you right now, the contracts I was criticized for. Eddie Alvarez's contract, George Masvidal's contract, Chael Sonnen's contract. Every one of those guys is a star. Cain Velasquez. These were the guys I spent money on. You know what I mean? It's like, I think I had an eye for talent. I don't know, you know? So
Jeremy Horn came through your program.
Yeah, man. I mean, Horn's an all-timer, man. He's a superhero. You know?
What's the Brazilian killer guy's name? What's his name?
Alex Stiebling. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
and
man,
then what's his name? Guys. Jorge out of Boston area.
Yeah, Rivera.
Yeah, I love your story. The first Eddie Alvarez fight, you had him second fight of the night, and after he fought, about 400 people left out of the building. You're like, oh, this dude's a star.
Yeah, God, it's funny because I remember that because we put him in against a Japanese guy, and it was a guy who was like 12-12. But you know how the Japanese are when they're like that; they're pros, you know. So he came over. He was going to put on a show, and his crowd is just Philly all the way, man. These people were yelling
with those ugly yellow shirts. With those ugly yellow shirts.
Thankfully, they changed around so often. But in this case, they were chanting. They were telling Eddie, punch him in the hair, you know, because he had the Japanese kind of boofy hair. Punch him in the hair. I never heard anything so fucking funny in my life. And I had to throw Eddie's dad out of a show because he used to like to drink, and he attacked one of the camera guys that got in his way. So we had to have him removed one time. So yeah, those are the good old days. But let's try to wrap up a little bit. But why don't you still watch the sport, right? Are you still into watching the UFC?
Yeah, I'm still reffing. I'm back reffing. I'm going to be back reffing this UFC again soon.
Okay, cool. Now, in terms of like the modern guys and like the guys that are on top now, who you watching? Who do you like? Are you still, or are we still looking at just the old school? Like when I talk to Trevor kind of has it down when Daniel Cormier fights and when the AMC guys fight. But other than that,
the sport's just changed. It's just a bit of different guys in there. I don't like the drama. I don't like the shit talking because if you would have talked shit to me like that, I was going to show up at your house. I promise you. I'm willing to risk going to jail. That stuff's not. I would do that stupid stuff because it is what it is. But I'm always going to like the guys like Cowboy. You know what I mean? And guys that are that type of thing.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Masvidal's because he's paid his dues, man. It's just beyond thing. I don't know if he's going to be able to beat those top two. Kobe looked real good yesterday. I mean, it's those top two guys. That's the one thing that Masvidal doesn't have that those two guys do is that world-class wrestling. You know what I mean? That's the one thing that those both guys have. And but I enjoy, what's funny is I enjoy coaching women more than anything. My women, they bust their ass for me, man. They give me everything they got. They're fun to coach. And you also get to see the product of the results of your product because of the talent pool being so much lower. You get to see the better results a lot quicker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the women's fights have gone a long way and stuff like that. But there are a lot of the times where even unexpectedly, it's like, hey, they were the fight of the night. You know what I mean?
That's just about every show. A lot of the time is they don't have the power to knock each other out, so they end up eating it. I don't enjoy below 125 because the girls can't knock each other out. Even the champion, other than Rose, it's rare. So I enjoy the 35-pound girls. I enjoy the 45-pound girls. I enjoy training them. They're fun. They're fun to train. It's a lot of fun.
So go ahead and plug your school and what's going on up there in the Northwest.
I've actually started training with one of my guys. It's his gym. I took a break, man. I got burnt out in the sport. I've been coaching by myself for almost 15 years, and one of my old fighters who's been with me for 10 years, he started his own school, and then he asked me to start teaching the grappling, and then we just started coaching together. I've been coaching his girlfriend for the last 2 years anyways, and we're having fun. It's fun. I love coaching, and we both have the same mentality. If you want to come in anytime, any day, anywhere, you just let us know. We'll go in there and put work in with you. It's not about paying us privates and all that other stuff. Yeah, that would be nice, but we're like that. It's nice to have like-minded people around us that are like that. And then our fighters, they appreciate it. We got strict rules. Everybody on the team, same rules across the board. I don't care who you are, the best guy on the team, the worst guy on the team. Set of rules across the team. You're not going to help your teammates get ready. Don't expect anybody to help you when it's your time to fight. It's real simple.
Yeah, it's kind of the old school stuff, man. Anthony, thanks a ton for the time, man. And I think we can
Absolutely.
keep talking all night, man.
Yeah, no shit.
Why don't we go ahead and keep in touch and do a follow up in a little bit?
I'll hit Holman up right now. Holman's like a ghost. He lives out in the country and he hardly ever comes off. You know what I mean? But I'll definitely hit him up and put him in touch with you. Tell me you want to bullshit with him.
All right, cool. Thank you very much, man.
All right, brothers. Good seeing you again. Thank you. All righty.
Thank you.
Later, bro.
Yep, bro. Buenísimo.